What I would say is that inequality is bad for everybody. That, societies that have very high levels of inequality have much higher levels of crime. They don't have as good public services. So inequality is not just bad for the bottom, it's bad for the top as well. My generation is the last generation that's safe. I'm the last of the baby boomers, and I think it is absolutely appalling the amount of free stuff I get at the cost of younger families, particularly families with children. And actually working age adults without children don't do well at all. So I think we do have to think about redistribution in terms of generations. But I think when people talk about Richard, they always think it's somebody else, not me. And I think it's me. I do think that we have to think about things. I mean, the biggest cause of inequality right now is the housing market. I do need to say that Scotland is very progressive on housing in a way that England isn't. So Scotland is putting in controls on the private rented sector, Scotland is building more social housing, and Scotland protects against the bedroom tax. So compared to England on housing, Scotland is certainly much more progressive and doing all the right things. But it's still not enough. It's still very difficult for younger people to buy in Scotland. Older people vote more than younger people, so that in itself is a problem. One of the differences, I think, in societies that are more equal is that the public has more trust in their politicians to spend their money wisely. When people say they want a really wonderful NHS, they don't say, I want to pay more taxes for it. Well, I'm afraid you can't have a wonderful NHS unless you're willing to pay more taxes for it. I do believe in a much higher inheritance tax, and I know that that's toxic for politicians. But even an idea like taking a very small amount of what would be inherited, say 1 or 2%, and pool it for elderly social care, you would have a pooled sum that all elderly people would have access to, rather than just rich people relying on it. And I think giving local authorities more discretion over local taxation would be a good thing. And I think the answers to inequality to many of the electorate are not acceptable, because a lot of them, the answers to inequality are about taxing the rich. They really are. I mean, there's lots of other answers, but that is one of the key issues. More progressive taxation. I mean, one of the things that Scotland doesn't have power over, and I'm surprised nobody is arguing about, is VAT. 20% VAT is incredibly regressive because it's a flat tax, and poor people have to buy stuff. So I would start with VAT.